Welcome back everyone. Hi, if you're new, my name is Tori and I make book related videos every single week. So this is going to be my last TBR video of 2019 for a couple of reasons, or maybe just one. Didn't think this out all the way through, but just the main reason being that I have a pretty large stack of books that I want to read. This is only half of it. I just don't feel really bound to a certain month to read these books. So I'm just really gonna go with the flow and see what happens for the rest of the year. These books right here are the immediate books, like at the top of my TBR. So these are the books that, along with others, that I'm going to be making my way throughout the rest of 2019. So I just wanted to share a couple of them, well, several of them with you today. So the first book is Perdido Street Station, and this is by China Mieville. I'm really looking forward to this one in particular, not just because it matches my sweater, but my cat is going nuts, but because this is going to be my first Mieville novel. I have two other of his books that are on my TBR for the rest of the year, but this one is really at the top. And so the other books that I have are The City in the City and Embassy Town. So this is classified in a few different genres. It is seen as dark urban fantasy with steampunk elements. That's really all I know about that. But this is set in the town of, or the city of New Crozabon, and we're following this man named Isaac, who's a scientist. And one day this creature comes into town with, it sounds like an assignment that he has for Isaac, or some help that he needs perhaps. And the two of them, just that encounter kind of changes the course of the book and the city. And I'm just looking forward to this because I spent a lot of time on the science fiction books side of Reddit, and every time there is like a mention of a steampunk book with a gritty and just really dark atmosphere, this book always comes up. And it's been on my, like, not my TBR for a while, but it's been just on my radar for a long time. And I'm just really excited for this. And this edition I actually ordered from the Book Depository because the American editions of a lot of science fiction books just are not the best thing I've ever seen. So the next book is The Traitor Cormorant, and this is by Seth Dickinson. This book sounds really great. We're following this main character, Baru Cormorant, and her island, her small island, is invaded by the Empire of Masks, and they just come in, destroy everything, and she is really harboring that hatred and that vow for revenge. And so she joins this organization, it sounds like, and starts infiltrating the Empire of Masks ranks to take the whole thing down one by one and get revenge for her people. So this just sounds like the type of book I need to read for the fall. I've seen this described as political fantasy, political science fiction, so also blends into a lot of different genres, I think. But I've heard nothing but good things about this. I've seen a couple of people reading this over on Instagram, and this is at the top of my TBR for a reason. So we'll see how this goes. This next one, so even though I'm not making a monthly TBR anymore, I can say for a fact that this next book is going to be on my October TBR because I just want to read it that badly, and that is The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. So I follow Orbit, the publisher, on Instagram, and I distinctly remember, like, months and months and months ago, I think it was like back in March or April, when they were hyping up this book for the end of summer release, and they were like saying how it was Gladiator meets something else, and I was like, what? So ever since then, it's just been on my radar, and all the praise for it and the great reviews and just the excitement and the hype surrounding this book have made me so incredibly excited to read this. So this is an epic fantasy, and the Omehi people in this world, they have been trained for war. They've been fighting in a war for hundreds and hundreds of years. And so our main character, Tao, he, as a child, he's been trained to fight in this war as well, but he doesn't want that. He wants a simple life. He wants to sit down and marry the love of his life. And something happens in the beginning of the book where that doesn't happen. Devastation occurs. Everybody that he loves is killed. And that really starts Tao on this epic story of revenge as well, and becoming one of the best warriors that this world has ever seen. So this sounds amazing. I seriously cannot wait to read this. I'm telling you, October 1, this book is going to be in my hands. So if you have read this, if you have, if this is on your radar too, let me know down in the comments, because this is just really blowing up right now. My coffee is sitting here getting very cold, so I'm gonna sip and talk at the same time. Actually, I'll put it in the stand. So the next book is Golden Sun, and this is by Pierce Brown. This is the second book in the Red Rising trilogy. So fun story, very fun short story. I read the first Red Rising book a couple of years ago. I wasn't crazy about it, didn't like it. Actually, I just thought it was fine. Got a little annoying at times, but overall I was like, this book is not for me. And I ended up giving it away. Please tell me why. Last year I ended up listening to it on Audible, and not Audible, just audiobook form. I think it was Libby, something like that. I feel like I just fell in love with that book. I don't know what it was. I don't know what happened, but I just found like a new appreciation for that story and just got excited about it all over again, and all of a sudden wanted to read the rest of the saga. I can't explain it either, but here we are, Golden Sun, book 2. So if you're unfamiliar, Red Rising is, well, the whole series, it's set on Mars, and the society is broken into caste system by colors. And the reds are at the bottom of the caste system, and the golds are very wealthy, and they are at the top. But there's so many other colors in there, and they do different things and all that kind of stuff. So our main character, Darrow, he's a red, and he, along with the rest of his community, they actually mine Mars to make it more habitable for future generations. But Darrow, he ends up kind of infiltrating the higher caste system at the end of the first book. And here we are in book 2. So I'm excited to see just, if my newfound appreciation for this book kind of extends to book 2. I'd be curious about that. But Red Rising, I feel, is definitely a series that I feel differently about. So that's exciting. The next book has been on my shelf for a very long time. I would say at least 4 years at this point. It's probably this one and then another one that's in this stack. They're probably the 2 oldest books on my shelves. Not in terms of publication, they just when I got them. And this is Wool by Hugh Howey. I am so looking forward to reading this. See, I get around to my books eventually. It doesn't matter how long they're on my shelves. If the interest is still there, I will get around to it one day. So this is the first in a trilogy, and I just have to admire the story, Hugh Howey's story. This has become a self-published phenomenon. And I mean, I think he has an agent now, but like this just completely blew up. So this is a dystopian novel, and it's this city or community of people is set far underground in this huge silo. And the silo, these people have never been outside before, and they've just been told so many stories about what is on the outside, and it just has kind of made them afraid. And so, but one day everything kind of changes when one of the guards of the silo, he is just like, screw it, I want to go outside. And he goes out there, and his position is ultimately replaced. But, the damage is already done. The people, they are starting their own uprising, it sounds like, and are just really curious about what is actually on the surface. And in that curiosity, they end up finding out that, their history and what is actually on the surface is not really what they have been taught all of these years. So Wool has excellent reviews. Everybody who reads this seems to love it. Knock on wood that I'm not the anomaly in this case, because that tends to happen sometimes. But I'm looking forward to reading this, and this is also high up on my TBR. So also, if you've read this or any of these books, let me know. So this next one is the second book that has been on my TBR on my shelf for the longest, and that is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. This is the first book in the Kingkiller Chronicles. Actually, I think there are 2 books, maybe a novella also that did not do very well at all. People did not seem to like that one. But this book and the second book, which is The Wise Man's Fear, are so beloved. And in this one, we are following the story of this main character named Quoth. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. And we're really following his whole journey from when he's a child and he gets accepted into this academy, and basically how he becomes the greatest wizard in this world. I've heard this is really slow paced because you really are getting like the nitty gritty details of this man's life and of his journey so far. But I'm fine. I'm just curious to finally jump into this book myself because I have been wanting to read this for a long time. This is an epic fantasy novel, and I just think it will be really good. So we'll see how it goes. And then the next one, I'm not going to talk about this one too much because I already fangirled over it completely in my previous video, but that is This Cruel Design by Emily Suvada. This is the second book in This Mortal Coil. Like I mentioned before, This Mortal Coil deals a lot with genetics and gene hacking. I had such a great time reading This Mortal Coil, and so this is the second book, and I believe the third one comes out early 2020. So I cannot wait to read this. I'm actually going to start this weekend. And the way I binged the first book, I may finish this weekend right on time to pick up The Rage of Dragons. So if you want to know more about This Mortal Coil, I will leave a link to my previous video in the description box, and you can just really watch me scream and fangirl and just get really excited over that first book. And then lastly, I will also leave a link to this book as well, because the description on the back is very vague and I'm actually not familiar with the synopsis of this book at all. It's just been floating around. I've seen so many people reading it and my interest has been captured just by the way that so many people speak of this book, and that's Ancillary Justice by Ann Leckie. This is my very first Ann Leckie book. I actually think this is her first book, but she also has a new fantasy series coming out, or that is already out, The Raven Tower. But this is a space opera, and this, like I said, I can't tell you anything about it. I've just seen it floating around. It sounds really good. I'm just gonna read you. I'm gonna be a good booktuber and just read you the description. It says, on a remote icy planet, the soldier known as Breck is drawing closer to completing her quest. Once she was the Justice of Torin, a colossal starship with an artificial intelligence linking thousands of soldiers in the service of the empire that conquered the galaxy. Now, an act of treachery has ripped it all away, leaving her with one fragile human body, unanswered questions, and a burning desire for vengeance. So there's that. That seems like all you need to know. So that's it for me, you guys. This is how my fall TBR is going to be looking, as well as several other books that I'll be making my way through as we move further into fall, winter, and ultimately the end of the year. As we get closer to the end of the year too, I am also going to be going back to books that I wanted to read earlier in the year. So my camera is sitting on my TBR cart, like on my book cart rather, and I've turned it into a TBR cart. So if I'm looking down here, I'm looking at the other books on my TBR, and there are a few books on here that I'm actually going back to that I wanted to read earlier in the year but didn't get a chance to, like Priory of the Orange Tree, The Golden Compass, Strange the Dreamer. So just a few like that. So I will be returning to those as well as all of these, and just gonna see where the end of the year takes me. So thank you all so much for watching this video. I will see you in the next one, but until then, take care.